It's easy to love those things that are easy for us to do. It's hard to love those things that we need to do. You see, it's our own ability to really take a step back from where we are in life and look at whether or not what we're doing is contributing to a greater good. It is our own willingness to do so that allows us to make sure that we're on the right trajectory that we wish to be on. You see, so many times in this life, we fall into the trap of falling down a series of events that feel bad in whatever way. They take us out of the mental state we wish to be in. We struggle to stay where we want to be in one way or another. We fall into the unknown and we get scared. This scared feeling will prevent us from being in full alignment. It will prevent us from being who we're truly meant to be. Because when we're living from scarcity, we're living in a state of lack, like I talked about in the last video. And if we stay in a state of lack all the time, well, that's what we're going to continue to create in our life. Well, we talked about it before. Many people talked about it before. Where attention goes, energy flows. So if we're constantly in a state of lack, in a state of, oh man, I don't have all that I need, and you have that in the back of your mind, well, guess what? You're going to continue to create that. Well, the saying goes, the conscious mind impregnates the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind creates your reality. You really need to look into that statement if you have no idea what I just said. But here, let me tell you a little bit about it, okay? Your conscious thinking mind is what you are consciously thinking from. It is the 5 to 10% of your day-to-day thoughts that you really have control over, right? These are the thoughts that you choose to have. Okay, the subconscious mind, your subconscious thinking brain or mind, is the 90 to 95% of the thoughts from your thinking from all day. It is like the container of which you're thinking from. And this box, this container, if you will, is created by your reaction and the way you perceived everything in your life before then, your beliefs, how you really feel about life, what you know to be true, so to say, what you believe to be true about your life, about what you've been through, which is ultimately completely dictated by your reaction, by your understanding of what it was that you went through. Take, for instance, two different people, the story you've probably heard before. Both grew up with an alcoholic father, right? You might have seen this in your actual life with somebody else. I have as well. Both guys grew up with an alcoholic father. Terrible alcoholism, tons of bad habits elsewhere, and just not the best father they could be. Lots of pain for the children. Both of these children go through the same or similar amounts of pain from this situation. But what happens? Two different paths are taken part on. One father ends up an amazing father to his children. He grows his own self in the ways he wants to. He chooses to go down a different path. He never touches alcohol. And he creates the life that he wishes to for himself and his family. He does all he should. And he knows because he knows what he doesn't want to be like. While on the other hand, the other brother or the other son, well, his path doesn't look it looks pretty familiar to the father's. Because of the pain from his father's upbringing, he goes and develops a drinking habit himself because he feels that it's normal. Maybe he hangs around the dad enough and they become drinking buddies to a degree. And they have some sort of bondage there. But ultimately, he develops the same negative habits and ways of being that he grew up hating because he simply dumbed himself down to that level and allowed that to be his standard. Now he's 50 years old, his dad's passed, and he's just as his dad was. Maybe, God forbid, he goes and has kids as well and recreates that same generational cycle of lack, of negativity, of negative emotions. What's the difference? What's the difference between the two? You have someone who reacted in a great way while someone who reacted in a terrible way. That's the difference, the reaction, the way that they perceive that pain. The brother who chose to stay in that similar lifestyle and not break the curse, well, maybe he held that pain in a little bit harder. Maybe he held a sense of self-pity from that with his father, right? Maybe that was part of the father's problem. He had a lot of self-pity. So that pity was a familiar energy that they both attached to. So now they're both friends sitting at they're drinking buddies sitting at the bar thinking about how bad their life is, how many things that didn't go their way. The other brother doesn't even want to be around that at all. He completely eliminates himself from the brother and the dad's life because he knows what he wants to be true in his life. He knows what he doesn't want to be like. Part of him resents his brother, or no, not resents. Part of him wants better for his brother in so many ways, but he knows that he can't really help because it's his brother's own doing. It's his brother's own reaction and therefore subconscious recreation of that reality. His brother's own subconscious understanding of pity, right? Or that familiar energy of self-pity, of apathy, of grief, of these negative lower emotions that kept him stuck, that kept him in the lower states of life that he grew up hating, but now he's becoming a part of. You can see how this might be trouble, and it would be for anybody, and it is for all of us in different ways. There's many things I've had to work through, and I'm still working through. Things that I picked up in childhood, in my teenage years, my young adult years, that were a part of my subconscious mind that I have to take a step back from and say, hey, you know what? Why? Why did I think this was a good way to go about that situation? What was it that caused me to think that was okay? Oh, it was that from my childhood. It was that from my teenage years. But if you don't ever take that time, you might just think it's just happenstance. It's just coming about, right? This is just life. No, brother, you're in control. Because you have to understand how to control. You have to understand the parts of your biology, the ways that the brain and the mind work in small ways. I'm not saying go be a neuroscientist, but there's a lot of things that could help you understand a little bit more about yourself to then make better decisions and get better results. Work at it, man. It's up to you. Have a great day.